Hey, this is Notser, and today we're taking a look at the Tier 8 American aircraft carrier, Lexington. We're on the map hotspot. The build is on the screen, and I scrambled my attack rockets, hoping to scout and possibly run into one of the two DDs. Now the build, slot 3, doesn't really matter. There's not a good option there. The other two slots, 1 and 2, they're aircraft slots. I'm taking the aircraft skill, literally the only aircraft skill. Then I enhance my dive bomb health. Dive bombs for Americans are really strong, and honestly, I wish I had it right now, because we found that Japanese DD with his AA turned off. So his concealment will be so good, I will have to make an assumption and start the aim before I see him. And this will allow the enemy DD to maneuver inside of my activation window. Oh, so frustrating to have to try and hit a target that's unspotted. There's just so much maneuvering they can do in the time that they are unspotted, it's almost impossible to hit them. But we're going to come back around and try again. Now, I absolutely will be using the dive bombs, the high explosive dive bombs. They will work very well against this same target, because you need to get close. Once you see the target, you can maneuver a bunch and still maintain great accuracy, whereas with the attack rockets, the aim alone is almost too long if you keep the target spotted or initially spot at like 3 or 2 kilometers. It's so ineffective that by the time the target is actually spotted and your aim reticle flies over them, they have already actively maneuvered and thrown off your shot. So all I'm trying to do is to really just stall it, so maybe we can capture A under their noses. I don't know how successful that'll be, but we have multiple friendlies moving into the area, which is great. I scrambled my torpedo squadron, which for the Americans is very mediocre, but are still very usable. I just have to get in position on a particular ship and try and deal with them. I don't intend to use it against the Shiratsuyu. I intended to use it against maybe the Fiji or the Vanguard, or maybe King George. But as we're approaching, we know that the Shiratsuyu is going to be spotted by radar, which of course he is. I am deciding, do I want to torpedo him? He kind of looks like he's actively maneuvering. Boy, if I had my attack rockets for radar, they would have been so much more effective. All these things are in my mind as I'm casually dodging flak. Just don't fly straight. Always have a turn or a plan, and they'll be easy to avoid. But the Vanguard is kind of isolated, so I just lead him in the direction he's headed with my torpedoes. They look pretty good. All 3 make contact, which is great. And unfortunately, it doesn't cause a flood, though. So we're just going to reset up another attack. I did use one of my heals. Maybe I should have just disengaged, used my dive bomb. But this player is just too isolated, and I want to take advantage of that. So I lead him once again. It does look like the Vanguard is able to slow down just enough. They only take 2, but he does start flooding. And we lose our squadron. Now, one of the things that I would love to talk to you all about is the decision making on when to drop a squadron or to stay over target and continue. You know, you've seen probably players, most recently, I think Jingles posted a video where an aircraft carrier was dropping his first squadron attack. And he only did that because he felt like he could conserve his health. But the thing is that Continuous rotates through every single aircraft that happens to be in range. And the fewer the aircraft that are in range, the more potent continuous damage can be. So you have to be very careful with that. I sort of like to have all my hit points, do an attack, and if I am unfortunately taking too much damage, then I only do 1 attack, or call it. But if I am not taking too much damage, then I can easily rotate back around and attack again in a quick time. But, you know, it's all on the player's ability. Now, you'll note that the enemy aircraft carrier, the A, kind of looks like it's coming from anywhere, but the main battery does not, and that is what you aim for. If you aim for the main battery, you will always hit it. If you aim for the AA, you will pretty much every single time miss it, because the AA is randomly generating the location it's firing from. The main battery is not. So that's why I'm able to almost successfully drop this guy. But the Fiji, he's definitely stuck there. I will try and slow down the eastern side of the map. We have this weird situation where a friendly Alaska is deep inside the enemy's base. I don't know what he intended to do there, but he's going to die. That's for sure. I just might get some damage on the Prince Eugen. Don't know about the North Carolina, but this Prince Eugen looks fine, and he looks honestly stationary. And yep, there goes the Alaska. I get into situations like that. It's really annoying. Kind of looks like the Prince Eugen is moving forward, so I wanted to lead him enough. And the first one doesn't activate. It actually activated right on the edge of the enemy ship. I should have given just a little bit more lead. And man, is this thick AA. Oh man, is the North Carolina got to speed through this? I think I didn't give him enough lead. Oh, he's turning. Okay, so it just slowed him down into it. One flood. One flood, good, and 3 torpedo hits. Couldn't be better, but this is an example of a bad decision. I shouldn't turn back and try and attack. I lost a bunch of squadrons for my torpedo bombers, and that is going to cause myself to not be able to keep up with the damage output for this next little bit. And the only reason it occurred is because I was stubborn and I stayed over the target too long. It was completely fine that I got a single attack off. Why did I feel the compulsion to want to take more damage? I don't know. Sometimes my aggression gets the better of me. Most of the time my aggression gets the better of me. And it's just one of those things with the aircraft carrier. You have to stay disciplined. You're not playing for this precise moment. You're not trying to win the game at minute 12. You're trying to win the game at minute 0. And you can't win it if you sustain too many losses. And the Prince Eugen, in response, uses a fighter, uses his defensive AA. I'm trying to move away from the enemies and also assist with this enemy Fiji. But as you probably can imagine, it's not really the best option here. Because I'm wasting my time. My teammates are doing great damage to the Fiji. You'll note that they basically kill him. And this is a waste of time. I should have maybe tried to drop another target other than the enemy Fiji. Just unfortunate decision making. I just have to get better at my aircraft carrier decision making when it comes to targets that I attack. I can easily dodge. I can easily successfully drop on pretty much everyone. It's just dealing with the fighter that allows for 0 counterplay, dealing with defensive AA that should allow 0 counterplay. It's frustrating. I don't know, other than just avoid the area, what I'm supposed to do. And hopefully we've avoided him long enough that his fighter consumable is back on cooldown. Enemy implacable, basically a token torpedo squadron, just a scout, and that's awesome. Of course, it's terrible. But this Prince Eugen kind of in an area where he's going to move forward with the island. I wanted to give enough lead that it wasn't a situation where it wouldn't activate in time again. Do get 1 torp, doesn't cause a flood. There's a North Carolina. Oh, we take a big little bit of aura damage there. He's using his fighter because he finally read it correctly that I was going after him. But it looks like he may or may not pull a Notser in his haste to avoid it. Any second now, there will be a Notser pulled. Okay, we got 2 torps. That's good. Implacable. Unfortunately, the enemy aircraft carrier is keeping me spotted. The flank that I actually flew to is the primary flank of the enemy. And I don't have amazing concealment, but I have good enough concealment that the aircraft is actually spotting me. And I'm just going to try and stall out the Prince Eugen. And the best way to do this is torpedo and dive. These are very potent at making the player change their plan. And all I'm trying to do is do damage enough that he has to actively maneuver. And if he actively maneuvers, I can stall him out more. There's also an enemy DD here, unfortunately, and I think he actually has defensive AA. Him or the Prince Eugen are using it actively. One of the 2 flak bursts. But it seems to be lining up very well. We are doing, okay damage. I am kind of missing the location on the dive bomb slightly, but we do lose the rest of that squadron. I just shouldn't have done that. There's no reason to try and stay over a target that long if they have defensive AA. Drop the one payload or fly away completely. Turn before you've committed all the way and disengage. Force that consumable to be wasted by you reestablishing another squadron's healthy attack. By me keeping my squadrons over the target, I don't have torpedo squadron. I don't have sufficient dive bomb. I'm stuck with attack rockets because they're the only ones that suck so much that I would never want to use them. But this fighter actually caught me, and now we're going to lose everything. So I'm just trying to find a softer window that I could recall. It's not a soft window, though. It's a very frustrating window. There's just too many enemy ships that are coming towards me. I can stall it, but I will die. So knowing that, what are some techniques for stalling out? Well, obviously, using the island, trying to force the enemy aircraft to die so they aren't spotting. Force a body spot by either the Prince or the Benson. And just keep giving ground. My team already has 2 bases, and as they are committing so much to this, they're literally committing every remaining ship. We've got 5 ships over here. 5 versus 1. That's great for me if I can make them spend a really long time not killing me, while my team attempts to try and gather back a little bit of the game to see if they can push it into the late game where we may win the game. So yeah, this really sucks. And I'm trying to angle. I'm trying to do the best I can. But half the enemy team, they've got fighters. The other half has defensive AA. So, there's no way I'm attacking the enemies if they're grouped up. This Prince Eugen, he stayed too isolated. We were able to do, pretty good damage, honestly. More than we should have. The enemies should have just been grouped up, so my AA could have been meaningless. As it stands, we ended up doing pretty well, but I think our life is coming to an end, so I'm going to try and recall the squadron and then re-scramble a brand new healthy squadron. The plan is we're going to use this to actively scout. Now, for the aircraft carrier, this is a concept that honestly needs to be communicated better. It's okay that the carrier is dead. As long as I'm actively scouting and keeping these 4 or 5 enemy ships spotted for my team so they can establish a strategy. And if you notice the time left, we got about 7 minutes. I can basically be flying for half of that. And if I can keep them spotted for half of the remaining time, we may be able to come out of this with a win. So the enemy Benson AA opens up immediately. I expect that the enemy team is going to have their AA turned on by default. And all I want to do is kill the squadrons. Well, that's obviously what I don't want. I would prefer if my squadrons could keep the enemy spotted so that my team, who just capped 3 bases, can have enough time to get some of the points back. There's an enemy implacable. Plus, it looks like the Buffalo has moved forward pretty quickly. So if I can keep the Buffalo spotted for my Baltimore and Hood, we should be able to cash in on 2 kills. Now, the Buffalo, he just pulled the trigger there. He fired on the Hood. By firing on the Hood, he's extending his air detection to such a great extent that if my teammates were behind an island, I could just merely have a fighter up to provide scouting, and that's exactly what I decided to do. I want to keep a fighter up just in case the Buffalo is in a weird way, he can drop off detection or the islands are blocking, just in case he is spotted for my team. And while that's going on, I'm going to look around the map. I'm going to try and find all of the enemy ships and re-verify their locations. We don't know where the Prince Eugen is, and we don't know where the North Carolina is. So those are the ones that could be maybe moving up to the D point and maybe getting a flanking shot on someone. Enemy implacable, still taking damage. He finally dies, and we are just about ready to match and exceed their point total. The Buffalo's low, Prince Eugen's low, North Carolina and Alsace, not so much. And we got about 50 seconds left. 50 seconds to try and keep them spotted. Now, I am considering what I want to do. My fighter consumable is coming off a cooldown. I would love to have it up for as long as possible. And, ooh, Alsace is taking a ton of torpedoes. I think he took torpedoes from the Asashio. That's a big gain for us. I think he's going to take one more. Does it cause a flood? Is he going to force out damage control? I've got 20 seconds left of life. I would love to contribute something with a single attack. I also have a heal. So I think this is it. We have to go. And we're going to go towards the Prince Eugen. Prince Eugen is probably going to feel like he is not going to die. And while we're attacking this, I use my heal to compensate for the damage output. And yeah, the Prince Eugen, he's doing everything he can to try and mitigate that damage. He uses fighter, he's actively maneuvering. I would love to see these torpedoes hit him and cause damage, but he was able to disengage. Now, it did cause him to completely ram the island. And by doing that, it actually line of sighted him to the friendly Baltimore. So now the Baltimore should be able to deal with the Buffalo very easily. Good, good, good. Actually, the Iowa dealt with that. And he should be able to just fire his gun on cooldown towards either the Alsace or the Benson. And if he keeps good angling, these are 380s on the Alsace. He's not going to do as much damage as he really would hope to do unless he switches to high explosive, and then the next salvo will basically kill him. So he's just trying to do whatever he can. I think it's an interesting choice that he's going after the Alsace. I don't necessarily agree with it. The friendly Asashio, however, was able to torpedo the North Carolina, who was contesting D point. The Baltimore is burning down, but he has done so much in stalling the enemy's progression. We now have about 80 points on the enemy. We have 3 bases to their 1. The Prince Eugen had to ram the island. The other 2 were sailing north in between A and D, and by turning into A, that may be the first option, but it's going to take a long time. There's only 2 minutes left, and we just keep gaining points, and this enemy Alsace, clearly spotted by the friendly. He could easily torp this guy. You can honestly almost openly fire on him in a little bit, but it's going to be really hard for the enemy to come back from this. We've just done so well in the stalling game, and the teammates that are left, they're very good. They understand what they can and can't do, so they're not overextending too much. You know, they're looking for kills, but they're not trying to throw their life away just to get a kill. The Asashio is sending torpedoes. The Benson is clearly over by A point. We don't know where Prince Eugen is. I'm going to assume maybe the Prince is either next to the Alsace, or he reversed and he came up through the southern side of D. But it's just, there's a minute and 30 left. I don't know that it's possible. It does look like the torpedoes may make contact with the Alsace. I think 1, maybe 2, right on his butt. Definitely 1. Ooh, okay, so it caused a flood, slowed his engine progression, and it looks like he is just going to flood out. And man, the game ends up a comeback. We were able to stall just enough, keep them spotted for our teammates to do as much damage as possible, and the remaining ships, they absolutely cashed in on some kills and assists. I did not expect to win that game. In fact, I expected to lose it very hard, but the remaining players actually surprised me. They were good players, so definitely appreciate the effort. I did about as well as I probably deserve to do in the Lexington, but it can be better. You know, we waste a lot of time trying to drop on targets with mediocre squadrons, and we stayed over the target too long. It's really that simple. And as long as I understand that and don't make those mistakes consistently, like I tend to, we should be improving with the aircraft carrier. We did pretty good damage with our aircraft carrier, but it was really on the collective team effort. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.